Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not really sure what to call today's reading. It will change by the time it gets into the thumbnail. This is what's on my mind. It's celebrating you and moving into 2022. That's what I'm hoping to do. So it's looking at how far you've come and what you're doing well, what you may need to keep an eye on next year, and then getting your best bits and shoving them through into next year to be your best self and feel good about you. You have got three choices. Your first choice is self-care. Your second choice is offerings. And your third choice is the cold moon. Before you go, I'm just going to say that although I have been putting readings up on the website, I'm going to have a few days off over Christmas and I will re-upload them or put down the date that I'm going to restart doing readings again. But if you do want a reading, that if you put your name in next to the reading that you'd like, it will go onto waiting lists and I can ping you when I do actually come back and do start the readings again. So three choices: self-care, offerings, cold moon. If you want to take your choice, then we'll get going.
La música de Harry Frog.
Okay, pile number one. I'm going to start talking. I always start off the same words, don't I? Because I feel like I shouldn't start, but if I stop too long, then I forget my initial impressions. You have got down the centre of this pile, you've got self-care, the fifth house and psyche. So I'm getting this feeling of somebody who... And you've got cooler cards over this side here. So the King of Swords, the Knight of Swords. This is a feeling of somebody who may have struggled with parents in some way, may be quite playful, may work hard, but may be quite terse with the way that they speak, or sometimes the way that they come across may be misinterpreted in some way. This to me feels like a hard outer shell with a very, very soft inside and often misinterpreted. This is somebody, the fifth house here makes me think of somebody who, and I said this in a personal reading not long ago, it's the first one that's up at Christmas. The fifth house to me is fun and enjoying yourself. There's creativity in here. So when you're looking, and I'm looking at this pile to see how creative you could be within the next year with regards to your personality as it lies and where you want to go. And I'm feeling that this is somebody who has the access to play with life, and that to me is vital. It really is vital, because when we trip up and when we're trying our hardest and we fall down, it's that ability to get up and to laugh, brush yourself off and start again. It's like you don't put things in boxes, or if you do put things in boxes, you outgrow them and then you move on. And play is, to me, and this is just me probably, is one of the most important things for me to feel like I'm alive. So the fifth house and psyche here and self-care, to me makes me think that you're very good at understanding what other people need, and you work, and you probably will next year work really hard to make sure that other people feel comfortable in their life, or that you're giving in some way. But there's a really strong message in this pile that with regard to your personality, it's like, don't always sit there waiting for other people to nurture you. You need to take that on yourself. You've got the six of wands up here at the top, which always makes me think of, it's the bees and the beehive. It makes me think that you know you're good at what you do. Whatever your job is, or however you're seen in the world, you're good at it, and you know that you are. But it feels to me as if you're not being nurtured enough yourself with regards to what you do, and you're looking for something else. But it feels like you've put yourself in some sort of box that says, if I don't show up as this person here, then I'm not really going to be loved, is what I'm feeling here. Because the fifth house here, it's warm and it gives out and it plays and it has fun and it falls in love and it loves the summer. The King of Swords, the Knight of Swords makes me think of somebody who is quite analytical, somebody who's quite astute, somebody who's cuts to the quick with what they want to say and why they want to say it. But it feels as me as if you've got a confident role in yourself doing that and you give to people in that way, but people don't seem to interpret that there's a need here for more from you, and it feels like you're... The Page of Pentacles over here, it feels like you're fed up of putting a face on. It feels like next year, with regards to creating something new, that you move into a position where you're more steady in yourself. It's almost like you take off. My biggest nightmare in school was taking off my brown duffel coat and having no clothes on. Apart from reading assembly, that was my biggest one. But this feels like you take off your brown duffel coat and you show people next year who you really are, warts and all. And it's a really difficult thing to do, because we all use our own little mindsets and say, this is right. You know, we all want to be loved, don't we? This is right. This will get me loved in some way or other. And if we don't, it's normally because we've been bruised, possibly in childhood, so we don't want to make ourselves vulnerable to even think that. But this feels like you've not been acknowledged for the softer parts of you, but you're always providing for others. And that may be something that you're moving on from. Because you've got the Five of Pentacles below, cards of confidence, the King of Swords, the Knight of Swords. And this is you in the past. So I think that you have a role, you've accepted it, you feel good with it, and that's your shell, and that's it, that's you. I don't mean that's a shell as if it's a false shell, it just is you, and that's what you've accepted. But there's something missing, there's some way that you feel, and I don't know whether it's if you feel as if you're locked out because you can't be yourself, or that you're locked out because you've created something that you want to move on from, that you've somehow, that was very northern, somehow outgrown. This feels as if next year you move into what... Four of Discs makes me think of stability in yourself, as does the Page of Pentacles. And it feels as well with the Page of Pentacles having the butterfly on the mask. It feels like you're taking this area away where cool exterior, but real need to play, the real need to have fun, and moving on into a situation where you let things fall away and you're just left with your brown duffel coat on the floor and showing people who you really are. And it feels as if it's not some great revelation, it feels like something you slide into. With the Ten of Cups here, it's like you just become yourself, and it feels like you accept yourself more, because the Five of Cups on this side and the Ten of Cups here, to me it feels like movement away from feeling like you're shut out to just saying, well, this is it, this is me. And this doesn't feel like, all the way through this pile, it doesn't feel like it's something where you go and confront somebody, or whether you come out with new hair or just something very different about your body. It's subtle. It's subtle, and it's something that you feel you need to do and nobody else has picked up, and you slide into that role in some way. So what you need to celebrate, what have you done the last year? And I think it's got something to do with understanding. It's got something to do with analysing situations, analysing people, where you fit in, what you've got to give. And even if it's not accepted, even if you're seen as being unusual, it's like you're going to make your stand next year, even if it starts off small, even if you start digging. It's like the Great Escape. It's like you're sort of putting all the clay and the soil in your trouser pocket and shaking it out. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're like working behind the scenes, and you've got a solid foundation. And in that process, it feels like you start moving slowly, but it feels like there's something feeding this. And this is a mental understanding and also an intuitive knowing where you want to be and, you know, where you want to go. And it starts unraveling, and it starts feeling natural. It's a difficult process to explain. To me, it feels like when you have like Saturn on a part of your chart and you know you've been plugging away, it feels like this, and you've put the effort in and you're just digging and digging and digging. As I said earlier, it is like digging in the Great Escape, and then Saturn moves off, and what you're left with is a very Capricorn basis, and that's something that you've worked for and that is going to work in the real world. And this is what it starts slipping into next year. Let me go on. Let me use these ones. I don't know if you can see these. I'll move these up a bit. Okay, with regards to career, I would say all the things that we've been talking about with regards to transforming in some way, in a quite a subtle and a very slow moving way, you know, basically drip feeding this change has got a lot to do with your career. There's a feeling here of being slightly trapped or anxious, or there's something about you can't even see the wood for the trees. You want to move forward, you feel it inside yourself, you feel like you may not even fit in the situation that you're in, and you also feel as well that you've given enough. The Queen of Cups with the Six of Wands and that beehive and the Five of Pentacles together and the Psyche, all of them, it feels like you've given and it doesn't feel like it's not appreciated, maybe with this card here, but to me it feels like you've given and you've experienced that in your life and now you want to move. It's like going through a progression where you go through a water sign and then you move into a fire sign or something like that. It feels like you've played the part, you've enjoyed it, what's next? And it feels quite natural and it feels as if it simmers into the next process rather than jolts. It's not like handing your notice in and showing your backside to your boss. It's not that sort of, you know, sort of abrupt change. It's something that showing your backside to your boss. It just is like a change that's natural and it's coming and you feel it. And there will be some, I guess, a decision to be made, some new small beginning. And it's like you get your feet on the ladder to where you really need to be, where you can actually be yourself. And it feels like in doing that, although it may be slow moving, that's probably where you may, with the King of Pentacles here and the Page of Pentacles at the top, you may actually start earning more because people can smell that you're doing what you enjoy. And the fifth house here, its expression is being yourself, and you're moving from, you know, the Pentacle cards, which start off smaller, then they get bigger with the King of Pentacles, and this is like a pile for career and work, and you've got anxiety and antagonism and people almost at you in some way, and you're still trying to be the Queen of Cups, and you've got the Six of Wands up here, although it's a different pile. It's like you're still working, you're still plodding because you feel you've like set yourself into, I'm not going to say a trap because I don't feel that at all. It's like a persona that you think works and you've outgrown it, naturally progressed and transformed and outgrown it. And then you move into this, which is there's far more love for yourself in this pile. It's solid and it feels as if it's everything that you've earned in your last year plays a process into being, you know, it's been there for a reason. It feels as if it plays some sort of process for you flourishing next year. And that will lead to, I guess, here with the Pentacles card, more financial reward because you're being more of yourself. And there's something in that, the moment that you start being genuine with yourself, and this sounds really harsh because I don't mean that we lie to ourselves, but I think we have like things we feel we should be from our parents' perspective and from when we were loved by other people, even outside our family group. So we like it, we love it, we try and be more of that. And sometimes we can drift a little bit too far from who we really should be. Because parts of us aren't particularly lovable. Parts of us just aren't. And that's okay, as long as we're not hurting people, that's just fine. And it feels that with taking these steps, and they're being small steps, you begin to love yourself more. And that's more important than trying to be lovely for other people, because people can see that you're genuine. And most people, when they're in their own space and when they're happy, which is the most important thing with the fifth house, it's the happiness and being self-satisfied in some way, which is why I always agree with being selfish, because So I'm all for selfish, because then you've got more to give everybody else when you make yourself happy. And I think with your Psyche card down here next to fifth house, you may have sensed that there may be something very playful in you, but you may be quite sensitive to other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions that you try and change to make sure that you can, it's somebody who feels the room and then feels what people need and give it with these cards here. And this is almost using that, knowing that you can do it, but not sacrificing yourself in the process. And this is what comes out next year, which feels lovely. Hold on. Now, with regards to love and relationships and that sort of thing, I think that you're quite a giver in relationships here. I think that you're somebody who comes across maybe as being a little bit cool-natured. You may have a lot of air in your chart with the sword cards here and the star card here. So people might perceive you as being quite restrained, quite controlled, not being over-emotional, and they can misinterpret that in some way. Because you've got the fifth house here, because it doesn't mean that you can't love. It's almost a case of you don't like gushing, probably. There's restraint in you. But there's different ways of showing things here. I mean, you've got these like airy cards with the stars I've just said, and you've got the Seven of Pentacles down here. It's making me think that people give in different ways. It's like you may not be, warm and indulgent, and you may actually, just making me think of like friends of husbands of friends who go to the Christmas plays with their kids, and soon as that moment, this is like a Virgo feel as well and an air feel, that moment that somebody on stage starts singing, you can see them tightening up. It's like, this is not happening. And I quite like that, because my husband's like this. He's like, I'm like watching musicals, singing, lovely, this is fantastic. And then they progress from talking to singing. And he's like, oh my God, no. And he almost has to get himself out of the room, and he can't look you in the eye. And I'm not exaggerating there. His worst nightmare, or his memory, was Duncan the Dragon, or somebody sitting on his knee in a play in school. It wasn't in school, it's a pantomime, it was even worse, more people. But this has a feeling here that if this is where you're coming from, and you've got the Five of Pentacles down here, and you've got here the sword cards and the star, you give in different ways. You may lend your ear to people. You may give advice in some way. You basically probably quite measured, and people come towards you because they know they're going to get the truth. But there's also a feeling here with the Pentacle card that you may have some earth in there as well. You may give in different ways. It's just something that you feel good. But there's a feeling here of you not liking to put on a face with this card here. So you don't like pretense, and there's a feeling here that you're not the most exuberant. The fifth house is here. It may be publicly that you're quite restrained, but there's a warmth inside. You may be somebody who's a different personality when they're drunk, like you could have like a Leo moon and Aquarius sun, that type of feeling. Air and sun perhaps hidden, the fire hidden, and it comes out as warmth later on. But you give in lots of different ways. And I think it's you actually acknowledging that is you, and that you reflected on this, I think, all over the last year. And this is almost like coming into your own, even if this process takes a few months into the year where you're plodding to be who you want to be in a work situation, in relationships, and there is a feeling here that you almost restrict yourself a bit in relationships as well. And this is where the self-care comes in. Because in relationships down here, you've got the Star card, which to me is always optimistic, always taking the high road, always looking forward, always trying to understand. It's quite a giving card here because you want the best. And it's normally the best for a group of people. So other people may somehow be in this perspective of your life and your relationships and how their needs may be met. So I'm even thinking like arranged marriages in this way. If it doesn't fit you, but you're trying to do it for the family or for the the group or I don't know. I don't really know, but it's like including other people's perspectives into something here. And you've been doing that, you've been giving in some way. It doesn't have to be that, but next year it feels like you almost retract your ability to keep banging your head against a brick wall. It's like confidence in yourself, and it feels as if it's self-contained in some way, as if you're becoming somebody bigger and stronger, but not losing your warmth, but definitely not being so pliable in some way, shape or form. Right. Okay. I'm going to start summing this up. So this is you last year and where you're going. Hold on, give me a second. Let me just take another look. I'm going to switch off and I'll come back. I'll just get all the cards into my head as a group and I'll be back. Okay, this is what I've got. You've got self-care and the 5th house and psyche here. So I'm thinking that there's a feeling here that you are very good at giving to other people. There's a feeling here, the psyche card and the self-care, that there's some way that you understand what people need and you give it automatically. That's been part of you since you were a child. It's like you feel people's vibrations, and it can make you feel uncomfortable unless you've given or unless you've actually made them feel good in some way. There's a feeling here that you like life to be fun, you like life to be good, you probably enjoy enjoying yourself, but there's also a feeling here that you have either worn yourself out in work, that you've given too much and you've changed your personality from what your initial intentions were or what feels natural to you. And there's a feeling here as well that you may have given too much in a relationship and work situation, to be honest. What happens next year, it feels like a gentle flow into you saying what's right for you and going after what you want in a very sort of steady way, which I think this is going to be the biggest probably change in you, is the loss of a feeling of having to do things, having to show up and do things. It feels as if you start pleasing yourself more, and this is where the 10 of Cups and the self-care comes in. There's definitely a feeling of nurturing yourself in relationships here. It feels like you watch and wait until somebody's matched your ability to give. And this, with this King of Swords, could actually be somebody who says, well, you don't give in this way, you're not very warm, you're not. And I'm thinking of my daughter, I'm saying this, you don't hug, you're not this. But she, people like my daughter, she's all Leo as well. She's not those people who you couldn't, as a child, you couldn't hold her. She was just off and doing things. You just couldn't keep her still. Well, my son, you could hug for ages. If people have said this to you, that they don't feel that you're warm, and you've got this 5th house here, it's like you give out your warmth in different ways. You get different types of warmth, don't you? It feels like you're, when somebody throws a firecracker down the chimney and you see that person in the room and it's big and it's warm and it's loud and it's funny, you feel like the sun coming out from behind the clouds when you're sunbathing, and it creeps over your skin and just makes you feel right. And I wonder whether you've had people with this pile here who may have in some way pulled you up for it. They might have pulled you up for not giving in a situation when you're like, actually I was. It's just a different way from the way that they give, and then somehow it makes me feel annoyed for you. But your next year is you becoming more at ease with yourself and not trying to, I don't think you do this that much, but I think that you don't actually accept being measured by others' barometers, thermometers, whatever meters. It's like you do your own. Yeah, that's what it is. It feels like next year, it feels like a blossoming in a strength of character that you may have found, or you may have spent quite a long time grappling up a mud bank to get there. And this feels fantastic. It feels as if, you get like, I always think of Pluto transits because the Pluto and the Uranus are the ones that you remember, but you get a Pluto transit and everybody's thinking, oh my gosh, here it comes, it's going to pummel me, and often it does. But this is like a Pluto transit where you actually are the Phoenix. You come out a different person, but it feels more like a trine. It feels like you're going through some situation which is transformative in lots of different ways, but at the end of it, it's almost like you are a king or queen on the top of the castle. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can understand people. Yes, you can give. You choose when you give. And this next year is you actually believing that and sticking to it. And it has a real strength about it. Right, I'm going to leave that there, pile number 1. Good luck next year. This might go a little bit early because I'm not very good at waiting, so I should wait till after Christmas, but I don't think it's going to work that way. Thank you for spending your time with me. Bye. Oh, I was going to switch it on then, but it's already on. I've just realised I actually switched it on halfway through shuffling here. This pile number 2, it feels to me has got a lot. Oh my God, let me start again. Dear pile number 2, you look like you've got big changes coming your way. It feels like a exploding dam next year to you. It feels like you have been treading water over the last year, and it's a very similar feeling to pile. I always say this is harder though than pile number 1. There's a feeling here that you've tried to keep upbeat over the last year over some situation or something that you feel that has been unfair, or you feel that you need to do something different to change your style of living or your mode of living or your mindset. And people have been, it gives me an image of somebody in your face or some situation in your face. And it feels as well that you're the type of person that may take on a lot. Because you've got the 12th house here and you've got offerings. The offerings card is very kind, very gentle, very still, very feminine. And the 12th house here feels like it's contained and it's brewing because you've got tougher cards of change over here. This may have something to do with relationships or relating. So next year, this energy moves from wild watching. It's like contained energy that is trying to find a different way forward, and you feel like you've met so many different roadblocks here, and this changes to oh my gosh, the Tower and the Death and the Ace of Wands. It's almost like you throw everything up in the air. Last night, I don't watch TV that often. People switch it on and leave me in the room to make phone calls, so I end up watching it. Gordon Ramsay, oh my God, how volatile is he? Oh my Lord. Anyway, somebody was saying something. He was with his buddies in the kitchen and he just had a plate of prawns and he just threw it against the wall. And this is what this feels like. It's prawns against the wall, this one. Yeah, prawns against the wall. But it feels as if it's feeds your freedom in some way with the Ace of Wands here. It's like you do it, you know what you're doing, some situation. It's like I've said this so many times, but I'm going to say it again just in case you've not actually heard it. But I think it was Sean Penn that said his house burnt down, and I'm sure Sean Penn's quite Aquarius. I don't think his Leo is, I don't know. The comment was to me, it was like having the rug pulled from underneath your feet and actually being grateful for it, because you've built your persona, your lifestyle, and this is very much Fight Club, the beginning of Fight Club, on certain things you feel that you need to be, or certain things that you feel like you need to have. And this is rubbing at the moment, I think. If you feel like it feels like sitting next to an Aries in a tea party, when they just want to get up and go, and the 12th house is like they're trying to be polite, and the move has actually been somebody in their face saying, eat that jam tart, and they get up and they move, and it changes into this. Next year is rolling in of big changes coming towards you, I think, and what it leads to is more independence. Because you've got the Juno card, you've got 12 cards here, you've got changes, taking different tacks, and you've got cards here of wiping the slate clean. The Ace of Wands is exciting and new beginnings, and the Nine of Wands down here is like being at home in yourself, being at home in your environment, and may literally be working at home. And this, because they're big cards, the Death and the Tower. Let me have a look, because I will go into career and more relationships in a minute. But you feel like somebody chomping at the bit to make changes, and the change is made by somebody actually chomping on your bit, and you're like, I'm not having that. This is what I'm doing. And it feels like it's like a volcano brewing, and I've had enough. And it's not negative. It's like you saying, this is the energy I want to be in my life from next year on, and you just do it. Not in a drastic way. It just is like, you've smelt it coming. The 12th house here is very much, the 12th house is a funny house. I think it's really difficult to grasp it. And you have to look at other people's charts, but looking from people that I know in my family, and possibly people that I've looked at a little bit, to be honest, not that much. The 12th house to me feels like, let's just say you've got a Leo 12th house, and you've got lots of family members with Leo in, who basically, let's take the negative parts of Leo. I'm going to take my granddad for this one. When he used to come in a room, if all eyes weren't on him, he would talk over everybody, over everything, and he would bowl people over with his personalities. Most of the time it was funny, but not all the time. Now, my daughter's got a plethora of planets in Leo, all in the 12th house. She's very shy. There's still the need there to be seen, and she's complimented. She like grows 10 feet, but she can't show it like a Leo should be showing it. So it's some way that I don't know whether it's a little bit too big in our family, and she has to play the role of thinking about being a Leo. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking about being a Leo. I'm thinking about it. And it's quite difficult. And the ability to relate to people, though, by actually batting back a little bit and understanding is probably a lot easier. You just have, I guess, an overabundance of certain energies in certain families and certain situations. And you've had enough of playing the part here of relating for other people. And you've had enough here of... And you're almost, and I think, I'm not saying you're almost prepared to, but I think you might actually be in the process of doing something that you feel that you may not have owned up to anybody else. And I know a man, no, that's a lie, I do not know a man, I know of a woman whose husband lost his job and still got dressed every day to go to work. She didn't know. In the end, he committed suicide. I think that's right. I think this was about 6 years ago. We used to work together. Yes, he did commit suicide. It's like you're fed up of playing a game, and it feels like you're breaking out of it. Because this is all like... It's like somebody's put you into a situation in life, which is probably yourself, where you feel like it's not your energy. This is a bit like pile number one. And I don't know, feelings do actually seep into the next pile, I'm sure. But this one is definitely more in your face. It feels like you've been put into a situation with the Knight of Wands, but the Seven of Wands you're holding off, and you're trying to think of ending it in different ways to do it, but you're not actually confessing this to people or even yourself, and you're still relating, possibly putting on an aura that everything's okay. But next year it feels as if like you hold your own reins and say, nah, this isn't working for me anymore. Let me see in what areas. Okay, this very much could be a pile of somebody who started something but not confessed something to others about getting a little bit of money doing something that they feel is more them, and you may feel that's not this may not be acceptable in other social arenas. It's like you doing something for yourself, and you may work for a group situation or a company or something, and the last straw with the Seven of Swords here and the Seven of Wands is somebody having a nip at you and you saying, well, actually, I'm all right, Jack, I'm going to do something else. And the Ace of Cups is probably the best thing you could do. And you're not going to feel that straight away, even though the situation that catapults you, and I think it will be a catapult with the Tower and the Death, into something fresh. You've got two aces here. You will feel as if you've lost something because you've probably lost your grounding in a situation that feels familiar. But what I feel here is that it was coming anyway. And I think we use outside circumstances to make our own decisions. I know I do. It's like, well, no, I can't do that. I can't. And then it happens. You think, yeah, actually, I wish that. This is what this one feels like. Okay, there's also a few. These are like big changes piles. Both pile 1 and pile number 2 are big changes. Let me put an extra card on this. Okay, if you've got some, let me see, hold on. All right. Now, this is your past pile. I'm going to explain the cards so that it might mean more to more people. And this is with regards to love. You've got the Lovers and you've got the World. So my mind is thinking relationship, perhaps adjusting relationship, perhaps in some way, just plain forward relating here. And the World card here, I don't know whether it's ending up. Then I put the Death card on top. So I don't know if this applies with regards to big changes, but you may also, this won't be for everybody, outgrown a situation. There's another situation here that I'm thinking of, situation, where you may fall in love with somebody from a different culture, from a different part of the world. And I don't know whether this is the person you want to be with, or this is the person you want to move away from somebody else to get to this. Because you've got the Seven of Swords twice is making me think that the 12th house and Juno here, that's like I can't think of a different way to put it. It could be under the table relating, if you know what I mean here. You've got the Seven of Swords twice, you've got the World and the Lovers and the Death card here in the past. You may be moving on to a new relationship, but it may feel as if to take these steps, you're going to have to disrupt the status quo with the Tower and the Death card here, starting something fresh, but also it may feel as if it's an uncomfortable beginning in the new year. Big changes in this pile. This feels like a wild person treading water, and you say enough's enough, and you've been busy. Is there such a word as busily? Yeah, there is now. Busily. I am busily doing something. The 12th house here in the Juno, I am busily sorting out what's going in my head with regards to what I want and how I relate to other people. And that may be a big issue in the last year. And then this pile here is like, I'm doing what I'm doing and you can all eat it. This is what this one feels like here. The Death, the Tower, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Cups, the Seven of Swords. And it's like you're pushing your boat out and you're moving into a situation which may leave with the Ten of Swords here and all these different cards which are quite drastic, the World, the Tower, drastic changes or big changes in some way. You will leave a part of yourself possibly in this year, moving on to something else next year. And you will probably outgrow, or you probably have outgrown quite a few relationships, situations in life that it's just time to move. It's time to move, and you felt it coming for a while, and you feel that you're relating to this group of people, you're relating to this man, you're relating to this woman, you're relating to whoever, and you're not actually, it's not feeding you anymore. So you're going to look elsewhere for it, and this, you may already know where this elsewhere is. And it could be work situation, and it could be a relationship, but you have got big changes coming to you next year. This one probably needs some advice. Your advice, I guess, is to keep moving and don't judge. Whatever situation comes to you next year, it's part of who you're meant to be. And it also feels as well that things might get taken out of your arena that aren't meant to be there. And don't react emotionally, I guess, here. It says here, it's like take a practical approach. Make sure you're surrounded by people that you love, that you know have got your back. And there are those people, aren't there? I keep getting, my sister-in-law, I don't know if she doesn't listen to these, but every time she's like, you can do that. It's like, yes, you can do this. Don't, you know, it's always really supportive. And that's the people you need to surround yourself with. And don't judge. Don't have... let your emotions somehow simmer here. The 12th house is that you've been good at that for such a long time. Don't start overreacting now. It's like you've got to get your group of people around you. Make sure that those people feed you in some way, because these are going to be your group that are going to almost, you're going to be standing on their shoulders or sitting on their shoulders. You've got to sort of imagine yourself in some sort of concert next year where whoever's on stage is somebody that feels like part of your tribe, and you're going to eventually, as the year goes on, get lifted up and put on other people's shoulders to be able to see them. So you need to somehow get you some sort of a group around you, some sort of community or some sort of support network. And this isn't like a bad thing, it just is a big process, I think. And it can be quite frightening when new energy comes in, but this is like much needed energy because you're prepared to take a different way around to get this. You've got to the end of your tether, I think, and it feels like new fresh energy is much needed, and it's coming. And not to overreact, it's just like let it flow in and keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the stage, get your group around with you, because those are the people that are going to raise you up to be something different. And it's time to. This is lots of endings here, lots of change. And you know this is coming. The 12th house in Juno, you can read this. You knew it's coming. You knew. This very much could be with regards to a relationship. Very much could be changing a relationship when new energy comes in, and it feels as if you're almost waiting to feel at home in yourself before you can deal with it, and this is the year for that. It's like you have the confidence to be able to make changes that suit you and bring more out of yourself. Okay, pile number 2, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that's okay. I hope that's clear, and I don't, because I've got like the death and I've got the tower. I don't want to frighten you at all in any way, because those cards are, to me, it feels like, oh my God, that program I was watching last night, one of the chefs they were going caving, don't ask me what I was watching, and he got stuck in a very tight suit, and they were laughing at each other because you could see bits of him falling out of his suit. It feels like somebody's stuck you into a very inflexible, tight suit, and you feel that you're saying, this doesn't fit anymore, I want something fresh. So good luck, because it's good and it's needed. And let it be a slow mover, and don't judge, don't think or feel too much. Just let it flow. Let things go. Let it flow, let it go. Okay, pile number 2, I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much. Bye. Okay, pile number 3. This is like the opposite of the other piles. It moves from what I feel is quite a masculine energy to a more feminine energy, which the other piles tend to indicate it was going the different way. It feels like the other piles were reaching outwards, and this feels like you're reaching inwards, but it feels nice. Nice. You've got here the cold moon, you've got the 9th house, and you've got Uranus. So it feels like, and with the Ace of Swords here, the cold moon, it feels cool. It feels, I've just read that. It feels as if there's some sort of clarity or illumination, I suppose is what I'm thinking with the Ace of Swords here. There's a change of perspective. The 9th house and Uranus, to me, is quite insightful, or very insightful, especially with regards to seeing the bigger picture. Uranus always wants to know the truth, and sometimes can be quite offensive with regards to their search. Because, I mean, if I think of Uranus-y people, I think of Russell Brand, although I think he does it in a really good way. You know, I think that he says things that because they're coming out of his mouth, they're funny. Because of his character, but if somebody else said it, it would seem rude. I think he gets away with, you know, when I think it's fantastic, away with saying things that other people think, and he actually says it and still gets away with it, which in today's society is quite difficult, I think. Sometimes we get, or people, the only people that tend to be able to say things nowadays without getting blocked in some way are comedians, I suppose. And the 9th house has that feeling as well of you wanting to be able to say your truth. And we all have our own truth. It doesn't have to ring true with anybody else. But this is somebody who's searching for it, has quite a childlike view, and this is in a good way, of thinking that there is some ultimate truth out there, and we keep searching for it. I keep searching, you know, I keep wanting to know things, and it takes you years to think everybody, you know, truths are totally different. And it doesn't really matter one hoot as long as we're getting the best out of it for ourselves to make ourselves a bit better. And in the long scheme of things, does that really matter either way? Because we come back time after time, we just play different parts. It doesn't really matter to whoever is looking down from above what part we're playing. I guess. I don't know. I guess they're quite... I don't know. That's what I think anyway. I don't think if there is something up above, then they're not judging us for what part we're playing. They're probably just laughing, I guess. Anyway, let me start again. Your energy is truth searching. It wants to know where you stand and what is going on in a certain situation that I think feels, yikes, of this has got something to do with, this is what it feels like to me. It feels like you could have started something up that isn't working. It feels like you've had to somehow stop a situation last year and think, this isn't for me, and take an alternative route. And this could have something to do with finances. This could have something to do with a work situation, or money lent, money earned, and words have been shared, and you just want to know what the truth is to be able to move forward and get over something and be something else. It feels also as well with the Ten of Pentacles here and the Ace of Swords and the Ace of Discs that you're somehow fed up of pushing in the outside world, and you've got the know-how and the understanding to, as I just said, know the cycles of things, and none of it really matters. It's all being happy in yourself, because success is a slippery goalpost, isn't it? You think you want something, you get it, and you're on to the next thing. And you know this already with these cards here. And I wonder whether you take quite a cool perspective on life, on where you should be, who you should be, because you already feel this. It's like it hasn't got the 5th house feeling like the last one where life is playful. So you may acknowledge this feeling, but you still play with life. You could have got yourself with these cards here into a situation where you understand it, and you're almost waiting for the feminine energy which is coming to actually start feeling in love with yourself and in love with life again, in a very sort of, not a sort of dancing on tables way, but an accepting type of way. Let me keep moving on here, because next year there's a strength in you, and there's a strength in where you sit in with regards to who you are and where your life is, that is powerful and blind at the same time. You've got the, and I'm saying blind because that's here, but you've got the High Priestess and the Emperor behind. It's like you know who you are. The High Priest and the Emperor are a weird pairing because it's confidence with the ability to be in the right place at the right time, but also with the High Priestess there, it's knowing not to push. It's like pulling situations towards you. And the Knight of Discs, it's like small steps as well. You know, you get those. There was some sort of horror film on the other day. Hold on, I'm going to think about it. I don't know what it was. It was some beast hovering above the ground, moving towards whatever it was, or some sort of spectre. I don't remember what it was, but it was definitely hovering. And my kids were saying, that's taken off this and that, and I can't remember what it was. But this is what you feel like this. It's like a spectre that has strength and it knows where it's going, it's moving in direction, but you're not touching the floor. It's almost like a rustle. A rustle, yeah, it's almost like, yeah, hold on, let me think. It's like a presence that doesn't touch other people, doesn't touch the ground, but it's still moving. I can't think of a better way to say that. I'll remember the film. This feels as well, and this head here is reminding me of a dream I had. We know when you have dreams and they're so important to you and you don't say them aloud because people scoff and you think, well, that's my most important dream. I once had a dream. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was, I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was trudging around in a maze. And I hadn't read this one. And I know that it is probably part of a myth because I've seen it since. And it was getting to the end of a maze with a minotaur sort of hat on. And at the end of this maze, there was two birds flattened, dead in a cross. And this is what this feels like. It feels like you're fed up of doing the earthly thing and trying to be successful in certain areas. You know the truth, you understand the truth, then you live the truth. But the birds to me signify feminine energy and the death of it. And I wonder whether this has got something to do with rebirthing it in some way, but doing it in having the know-how of the Emperor and the High Priestess, the intuitive ability to be it. To be it without having to grasp. That's the best I can say that here, because it's grounded and it's understanding, but it's still powerful with the Emperor here. So this is a process that feels really powerful and beautifully strong next year. It's got something to do with your energy. I can't explain it, sorry. I've got my eyes shut and thinking. Do you know when somebody, and I think people often talk about this with regards to sun energy, you know when somebody's in a room and they don't say anything, but they have a presence? There used to be a headmistress in a secondary school. I guess she was Capricorn, so I don't know what I'm talking about sun energy here. She was one of the other teachers said she was not a manipulator. It was something like she knew her business sense and she never barked. She was quiet and she was incredibly strong. And when she got up to talk, she was very feminine and very gentle, but you wouldn't mess with her. This is you next year. And that's you scrabbling in this year to try and assert yourself, and then you give up because you know the game. And I don't mean assert yourself as in, making a presence known. It's like trying to succeed in what you deem as important. And it's not like the big change of the last pile. This is like a movement into, you know this already. This isn't really movement. This is you coming into your own understanding. Hold on, let me just get some more out. Which I wonder as well with the cold moon there and the Uranus there. I think if we actually looked at life and took away all those little bits that make us, that make it us feel as if we relate or we celebrate or we're part of groups and things, life if we knew the truth when we die, would actually probably appear quite cold. It would basically just be like maths. But we live it, and we need that warmth, we need that connection, we need to feel like we belong. You know that already. You may have strong Sagittarius or Aquarius in your chart already. You're looking for something else. Let me just try and see where this is going to come out. This has got a feeling that you start putting people that you love or that you're attracted to around you before your need to make a mark in the world. And that may be difficult to explain here, because you've got here, with regards to work situations, walking away from situations you've outgrown that don't feed you anymore emotionally, and you've got here ability to connect to people. So I don't know whether it's in a work situation, whether you stop striving and start relating more, but you've got feelings here of personal relationships being very important in too. It feels as if you've relaxed, because these cards afterwards with regards to work, let me take these away, are very much cards of acceptance. So I don't know whether with regards to work situations, whether you think that you should be in this certain place or you should have this certain job, and then you just basically come at ease with yourself. It could be acceptance of the position that you're in and it being fine. There's also a feel here that you could have applied for something and not got it in the last year. And you've almost, by going through that process of applying, or even in your head applying or thinking you want to be somewhere else, accepted that it's just a cycle on another wheel. It doesn't really matter, because the changes have to be internal rather than external with you. And there's also a feeling here that you gain confidence. It may be, you've also got a feeling here you could be working from home as well. Or you could be, maybe you weren't, but you could be here. Let me put some more on these ones. Your next year with regards to love and work has got a beautiful feeling of acceptance and letting things roll over you. It feels like with regards to how you're going to come out next year, you may have got things started, you may have changed your job, or you may have been in some position where you've applied to something and not got it. It feels like the changes are in the past. With regards to relationships, it feels like you may have a connection with somebody that may be more important than your work anyway, and this connection grows, but not that much. There's not much forward movement with regards to in the practical sense, but it's like that's more important to you, and understanding. And I'm wondering here with this pile here and this Uranus in the 5th house, maybe you use your feminine powers, magic power, Shira, to feed your work in some way. Your understanding of the world, your ability to quite coolly perceive situations and relate to people may actually feed your work in some way. And I don't know which way. This could be anything. This could be like moving into counselling or tarot reading, or anything like that. It could be just something where you look at situations, you understand them here, you've got a very clear perspective on people and how they work, and it feeds your work in a much more feminine way. You're not pushing out, you're changing things and moving inwards, but actually having more power to do, in yourself by doing that. The relationships one isn't clear for me. Hold on. This is what the relationships say to me so far. You've got the 6 of Cups with the 6 of Swords. So this may be a situation that may be long lasting, maybe somebody from childhood, and you may be moving away from the person or want to move away from the person, but what happens is you don't. That situation is still there, and it feels like you're very much tied together, even though with the Four of Swords to me feels as if there may not be that much movement in the first half of the year initially. Yeah, there is. Yeah, I think that, where's it going? Yeah, okay. This person, if you have somebody in mind who you're attracted to and you're looking at what's going to happen next year, I think there's going to be, this person isn't going to interfere in your life too much, because I don't think they're meant to be. I think this is a process for you to internalize the situations that you've had last year, find out where you fit, and in a very sort of loving and open way, accept yourself and where you want to go next. It feels like that this person's giving you room, but staying in the background, if that makes sense. Because you're pushing forward in a way that means more to you, that means more to who you are and where you show up and how you show up in different situations, and that's important. Basically, this is you finding your own feet, from understanding, looking at a perspective with much knowledge from things that you've actually gained before, or who you are and where you are, and using this next year in a very sort of understated way. And this relationship is, probably there for you, but takes a backseat to allow you to do this. This isn't the right timing for your relationship, I don't think. Out of all the piles, pile number 3, and I don't know whether I've said this too clearly, and it might be very boring for you, but to me it feels like there's a process inside you, and there's an understanding that is much needed and feels really, really, what are the words? It's like an awakening pile. It's like it feels like you're aware of the part that you play in life pile, and everything's on hold for you. This is like important lessons that are for you at this moment, that have been, it's like somebody says, stop, let her just be this year. I feel that that's not good enough for you, pile number 3, but that's what I'm getting. What I will do, if I don't think it's too clear, is I'll take the cards up and tell you what I'm getting at, and you may be able to get more from it. You're coming across here as the cold moon, which to me feels as if there's like clarity and illumination. The 9th house and Uranus, I don't know how much you need that, because these two together make me think that you've got your eye on the prize anyway with regards to understanding what's really going on below the surface. Then you're coming over in the past year with the Ace of Swords and the 7 of Cups and the Ace of Discs. So that to me feels like you may have got things started or wanting to get things started, and somebody keeps pulling the rug from underneath your feet. And you may have got to a perspective, with the 10 of Pentacles here, where finances and position in the world aren't that important to you. With regards to work, you've got walking away and probably having a need for an emotional connection. There's a possibility here with the 6 of Cups and the 6 of Swords that you may already have that, but the timing is not right again, because this man keeps popping up. That could be the King or Queen of Cups, regarding which type of relationship that you're looking for. But somebody loves you, you're attracted to them, and it's simmering, I guess. I think I've used simmering a couple of times in the background. Now, next year, there's a feeling here of you coming into your own with regards to where you stand in the world, but it's a very sort of feminine, intuitive understanding. As I gave that dream of trying to find your way through, the blind rat mole, trying to find our way through our earthly lives, and then probably seeing that as things change, as the world changes, through many different cycles, it's actually the time to be being more in tune with our feminine sides. And this, even though with the Emperor card in my hand, has a feeling that you are searching and understanding, and you're coming into your own over the next year. The next year is a really important year for you finding and understanding that, because you don't have these cards with the 9th house and Uranus there without understanding how the world ticks. It all goes a little bit more above work, love, eating custard. It goes a little bit, yeah, oh yeah, eating custard. You need to do that on your day off school, sit there with a pan of custard. It's more than that. So this to me has a feeling that it's a process for you. It's a process of who you're eventually going to turn out. And then you've got cards here for work of basically, yeah, those are the work ones, of lying low. And you've got here's relationships, still that relationship existing and it being an important part of your life and possibly internally building more. But there's a feeling here that you're not meant to be doing this year. You're meant to be perceiving and finding your feet. And it's all very strong and psychic and intuitive and very profound with regards to your development here. It's like independence, celebration and searching. That's what I'm getting. Difficult, I hope for anybody to put that into a more concrete way because I feel it's very subtle. But it's like you get these, this is me actually, one of the things I look at. But let's just say you were if there was a God, whatever your belief is, you could fill the name in there, just some sort of higher energy, and you were marched up in front of this God or whatever, and they would say to you, your next year is yours to be more of you and not in the way that you have in the past. This is a way of understanding where you fit in the big picture, and you're going to get insight and intuitions. This is a year for dream diaries. This is a year for going inward. This to me very much could be a year for experiencing things, and I often think that we hear like transformation, and we look at Pluto cards and we think and all that, but I think actually to go through that is an extremely painful process. Because if it's to do with geometry and if it's to do with changing ourselves, our brains and our insides a different way, you don't get there very subtly a lot of the time. Even if it is subtle, your body pays and your body dies inside. And this could be a year for that. I don't mean to scare anybody, but if I was going to give advice, and I won't even use the cards for this, it would be to look after yourself and make sure that everything you eat is as natural as possible. And rest. Because this is a fantastic year that not many people get a chance to have. To me, it feels like. And if you were standing before your maker, they would say, put your seatbelt on. This one's coming at you because you've been asking it for lifetime after lifetime. Look after yourself in a nice way. Right, pile number 3. I hope I haven't insulted anybody today. I really do. I don't mean to ever. But I know that I speak fast and stuff comes out nobody needs to hear. Well, anyway, I apologise if I have. Bye.